All right, good morning, everybody. We are moving into chapter 12. And before we actually dive into the chapter, I want to talk about some prior knowledge that we've gone over in the past. And I think a big help here would be to look at the Pythagorean Theorem before we actually start with chapter 12. So, just as a refresher, we know that the Pythagorean Theorem states that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And what we want to do is kind of identify what these letters represent as far as the triangle. So what we're going to do is take a look at number 1 on your assignment. And what I've gone ahead and done is tried to mark in here where the actual right angles are. So as you can see where that red is, as you know from the past, that a red mark right here, and right here identify these triangles as right triangles. So what we do is, with the Pythagorean theorem, we use that to find different sides of our right triangles. So for instance, let's just identify over here on number 1, what is what. So the side that comes across from the right angle is going to be C. All right. And C is your hypotenuse. Okay. Now, with that being said, we have a leg A and a leg B. All right. It really doesn't matter what leg you assign to A or B. We just know that A and B are the legs. So when we're using the Pythagorean theorem, we're going to be either finding the hypotenuse or we're going to be trying to find one of the legs. And the reason why we need to refresh this is because we're going to have to know how to do this going into chapter 12. All right, so let's apply this to number 1. All right, and what I did was I just labeled 17 as A and our question mark is B. Okay, now if you did it the other way around, where you made B the leg with 17 and A the question mark, you would still end up with the same answer. Okay, so let's plug in what we have. In this case with number 1, we're going to be finding a leg. So let's plug in exactly what we have. A squared, which looks to be 17 squared, plus B squared equals 19 squared. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going into my calculator and I'm going to type in 17 squared is, let's change color here, 17 squared is 289. We don't know what B is yet, so we're going to leave that as B squared. And in my calculator, I'm going to type in 19 squared. And I get 361. All right, now we're going to do a little bit of problem solving, which back from Algebra 1 has us do, and that is just to get the variable on one side and our numbers on the other side. So what I'm going to do now is subtract 289 from both sides. And I'm going to get a new equation of B squared equals, and we'll do 361 minus 289. And we get 72. Oops. All right. Now, we can't just say B squared equals 72 because if you notice, our triangle isn't B squared, it's just B. So to get that square off, we're going to have to take the square root of both sides. So if I take the square root of B squared, I'm left with B. And if I take the square root of 72, you can put that in our calculators, we get 8.48. And if you notice, the instructions are round to the nearest tenth. So when we get 8.48, that's going to round up to 8.5 for B. So in a sense, we found what B is right here. Okay. Now, let's look at an example where we don't know what the hypotenuse is. And if we look at number 5 here, number 5, they don't have any triangles, but they've labeled A, B, and C. And what we don't know is what A and B squared equal yet. We need to find what does that equal in order for us to get C. So we're going to use the same exact formula of A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And I'm going to plug in what I have. A is 12, so I've got 12 squared. And B is 5, so I've got 5 squared. But we don't know what C squared is yet. So with our calculator, we're going to go ahead and type in our numbers and square them. So we have 12 times 12. We get 144. And we know that 5 times 5 is 25 equals C squared. All right, so what I'm going to do is just add those together. And I get 169 equals C squared. Again, though, we don't want C squared, we want just C by itself. So like we did over here in our first example, we're going to take the square root of both sides. So what I'm going to do is set up and figure out what that is. So we're going to put the square root sign there over both sides. And 169 is a perfect square. So we're going to get a whole number answer of 13 equals C. So C is 13. All right.